The stage was silent. A soft breeze brushed through the Grand Theatre of Ireland's Got Talent, carrying whispers of curiosity and disbelief. No one could understand why a child so young was about to perform. The audience leaned forward, confused yet intrigued, as a tiny girl with bright almond eyes and a pink bow in her hair walked slowly onto the massive stage. Her name was Amara Dela Cruz, just 4 years old, from Manila, Philippines. She could barely reach the top of the piano keys without the small stool she clutched tightly in her hands. Yet there she was, standing beneath the glittering lights of one of Europe's grandest talent shows, in a place far away from home, surrounded by strangers who expected, well, not much. Her mother, Lara, stood backstage, her hands trembling. She had never been so far from Manila. She could still hear the roar of jeepneys and the laughter of neighbors who'd helped raise Amara when money was tight. But now, everything was quiet. All she could see was her daughter, tiny, fragile, fearless, ready to show the world something it had never seen before. "Are you nervous, sweetheart?" asked Lucy, one of the hosts, kneeling beside the little girl before she went on stage. Amara shook her head slowly. "No, ma'am, I want to play for my papa in heaven." The audience gasped. It was the first time they heard her voice, soft, innocent, carrying a sadness no child her age should know. Judge Simon Cowell, flown in as a guest that evening, adjusted his microphone and looked at her with surprise. "For your papa, what happened to him, little one?" Amara blinked, her tiny fingers holding onto her stool. "He fixed pianos, but he got sick and couldn't finish one. I want to finish it for him with my music." That silence again, the kind that wraps a room like a prayer. Lara pressed a hand over her heart backstage. Her husband, Ramon, had indeed been a piano repairman in Manila, a gentle man who spent his nights teaching Amara scales and melodies on broken keys they could barely afford to tune. He had passed away only 6 months ago. The producers hadn't planned for this kind of emotion. Ireland's Got Talent was known for wild acts, dancers, singers, but this was something different. The lights dimmed. The spotlight focused on the small wooden piano stool. Amara climbed up carefully and placed her feet on the tiny box beneath it. The piano in front of her, a shining black grand, looked enormous, like a mountain waiting to be conquered. For a second, she just stared at the keys. Then she took a deep breath. And played. The first notes were so delicate that the audience barely heard them, like raindrops on glass. But as her small fingers danced across the ivory keys, something miraculous began to unfold. The melody swelled, rich and haunting, weaving through the hall like a story untold. It wasn't a song anyone recognized. It wasn't Mozart or Chopin. It was her own. Every key she pressed carried the echo of home, the sound of church bells in Manila, the laughter of children playing under the rain, the rhythm of a jeepney engine, the lullabies her father hummed before he fell asleep in his workshop. By the third minute, the audience wasn't just watching, they were holding their breath. Tears streamed down faces of strangers who couldn't even understand the language of the little girl, but they could understand her soul. Simon leaned forward, his eyes wide. "Unbelievable," he whispered. "She's composing live." Amara's hands moved faster now, her small body swaying with the rhythm. At one moment, she looked up at the ceiling, smiling through tears. "This is for you, Papa," she whispered into the mic without stopping the music. Her mother could barely stand. By the end, when the last note rang through the hall, a single, pure tone that hung in the air like sunlight, no one clapped at first. They couldn't. They were too stunned. Then, slowly, one person stood up. Then another. And another. Within seconds, the entire auditorium was on its feet, clapping, cheering, crying. The sound rose like thunder. Lucy, the host, covered her mouth. "Oh my God, she's only 4. Simon stood, still shaking his head, speechless. Then he pressed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti exploded from the ceiling, raining down around Amara as she looked around in wonder. For a moment, she didn't understand what was happening, she thought it was snow. She reached out to catch a piece of gold paper in her hand and laughed, her small teeth showing. "Look, Mama, it's shiny." Lara ran out onto the stage, tears streaming, as she scooped her daughter into her arms. Simon walked over, kneeling beside them. "Lara," he said softly, "I've seen many prodigies in my life, but this is something divine. You didn't just raise a pianist. You raised a miracle." Backstage, producers scrambled, phones rang. The clip of Amara's performance was uploaded to the show's social media within minutes. Within hours, it went viral. Within a day, it hit over 50 million views. Headlines flooded the internet. Greater than, the 4-year-old genius who played her father's soul. From Manila to Ireland, a little girl who spoke through music. Amara Dela Cruz, the child who made the world cry. But for Lara, none of that mattered. That night, in their small hotel room overlooking the Irish Sea, she tucked Amara into bed. "Did you see Papa?" Amara whispered, eyes half closed. "Yes," Lara said, brushing her hair gently. "He was right there with you." Amara smiled in her sleep. "He said he likes my song." The next morning, media trucks lined the street outside. Every network wanted an interview. Every journalist wanted to tell her story. But Lara protected her child fiercely. "She's not a star," she told one reporter gently. "She's a little girl who plays because she misses her dad." Still, opportunities poured in. Amara was invited to perform at Dublin's National Concert Hall, then at Carnegie Hall in New York. The Irish Prime Minister sent her a letter praising her, gift that bridges hearts. By the time the finals of Ireland's Got Talent arrived, Amara had become a global phenomenon. The theater was packed, not just with fans, but with musicians, producers, and families who had flown in from across Europe to witness what they called the miracle child. When the lights dimmed again and her name was called, she walked out, holding a small teddy bear in one hand, the same one her father had given her before his final hospital visit. This time, she played a duet with herself. The production team had arranged a recording of her earlier performance, and Amara accompanied it with a new melody she had composed that week, one that climbed higher, brighter, stronger. It was as if she was answering her past self, saying, "Papa, I'm okay now." Halfway through the performance, the background screen lit up with a photo of her father's old piano shop in Manila. The words above it read, "Greater than, for every child who dreams with broken keys." The crowd erupted again, sobbing, applauding, standing in awe. When the results were announced, there was no suspense. Amara Dela Cruz, the 4-year-old piano prodigy from Manila, had won Ireland's Got Talent 2025 by a landslide. The trophy was almost as big as she was. She looked at it curiously, then handed it to her mother. "For Papa's shop," she said. Simon Cowell lifted her up on stage and said into the mic, "I've been judging shows for decades. I've seen greatness, but I've never seen innocence turned into genius. Like this. Amara, you didn't just win this show, you reminded the world what music is for." The entire audience joined in a chant. "Amara, Amara, Amara." The echoes filled the hall like waves. After the show, Amara and her mother returned to Manila. The airport was flooded with reporters, fans, and families holding signs that read, "Proud of you, Amara." And, "Manila's little angel." Yet despite the fame, the wealth, and the invitations from every corner of the world, Lara made a quiet decision. They would go home, back to their small apartment in Quezon City, back to the street where Raymond's shop once stood. Within a month, the old piano repair shop reopened, its faded sign freshly painted. "Dela Cruz Pianos, music lives here." Amara sat at a small upright piano in the corner, playing softly as children from the neighborhood peeked through the window. Lara smiled, watching them. "Would you like to learn?" Amara asked them. The children nodded eagerly, and just like that, the legacy of her father continued, through every note, every smile, every dream she helped create. Years later, when Amara turned 10, she returned to Dublin for a charity concert. By then, she had composed over 20 original pieces and could play symphonies from memory. Yet when the host asked her what her favorite piece was, she didn't hesitate. "Still the first one," she said, "because that one made my papa smile in heaven." As she began to play, the theater once again fell into that same holy silence that only true music can bring, the kind that reaches beyond language, beyond time, beyond the world itself. And somewhere, beyond the curtain of this life, a proud father surely smiled, whispering, "Well done, my little girl. You finished my piano."